Okay, no, let's go. We're gonna navigate through Project Iridium today. I think that's the main reason you are watching the webinar, probably. Okay. Many fields are being invaded by artificial intelligence. Risk management is absorbing that mainly in the financial services side. Uh, Probably everybody realized that fraud detection today is done a lot with AI applications. Healthcare is a domain that's being revolutionized. Pharma, development new proteins, new medicine, new formulas. AI is already putting a big chunk in that field. And also in manufacturing, not as much as you would expect today, but already starting. And legal services, for example, is an interesting case where you have models performing better than lawyers, which is not very surprising, okay, mainly in Brazil, but that's another issue. We as risk management people, I define myself as a risk management professional, we stopped making real progress since 2002. What happened in 2002? We had many failures from companies that left their investors out in the blue. Well, Enron is the most memorable. Then you have, because of that, you have a reaction from beginning with the US government, but also in Europe, from regulators. Regulators specify that you need something called enterprise risk management, which is a nice idea. It's a systematic framework with objectives, and then you look at the risks, and then you disclose that to the investors. That seems very reasonable. Never happened, in my opinion. COSO and ISO 31000 came along, COSO first, then ISO 31000. They had major reviews in 2017, in 2018. They tried to accommodate for the original idea that you have to have objective first and risk second. Never came along in reality. This whole movement, mainly the regulators pushing things on companies, incentivized simplification. Big Four and the other six big consulting companies multiplicated that, and people like me, a freelancer consultant, went along and started offering solutions for that simplification, actually. So instead of using Excel, why don't you use a GRC platform where everybody gets connected and all the company shares the same information? It's nice, but it's only nice. You're really uh, building on good concepts. You're not giving the real powerful tools that this field needs, in my opinion. Okay, and probably whoever is watching the webinar probably agrees with me. Okay, because it's a webinar for like-minded people, of course. Okay. So in an article for LinkedIn, I use this table as an example. It's the use case I'm working on in Project Iridium. I want to give a full solution for this situation, which is a user safety problem in a food manufacturing company. Okay, this is how it would look for a current enterprise risk management application. It doesn't matter if it is in Excel. It doesn't matter if this application is in expensive GRC software. I apologize if there is anybody from the GRC world. I actually used to sell Archer and Voz software in Brazil. I'm a representative, but I'm talking about these huge platforms that companies spend close to $1 million to have full compliance and auditing and risk management all together. The risk management part is really, I won't say harsh word, but it's really very too simplistic. I think that's the word. So basically what you get is a database that's a relational database where you lose context. Basically what we are doing, we're asking people to identify a risk, not to identify a situation where there is risk, where you have to make a decision. Identify the risk. The risk is product contamination. After you do this, you lose the context. Even if you have someone in the company that understands, has the full picture of user safety policies and what that means from a sustainability standpoint. This person has that in the back of the mind, and the company really doesn't have that context clear. What you're looking there is in a spreadsheet, a line which captures information in a very, very rigid way. It's a relational database. Okay? Uh, a large language model can go there and extract this information and put it in a systems driven application, but you lost content. You don't have context. You don't have the context anymore in this table. And even worse, you use a qualitative score, which is a single point. And what people will do, will go to the board and to top management and use this as a dot in a heat map and say, this is product contamination. You're losing completely the real deal, which is the product safety for the user, and how the company is strategizing that, how the company is making decisions around that with product contamination as an information. And of course, if you go down on the layers, decision layers, you're going to have someone that's looking at bacteria in production. No doubts about that. You're reducing the size of the world so that this person is in the real world. They're fighting contamination in a vat or in a reactor. I don't know, making cheese. But in the top level, when we're talking about enterprise risk management, we should look much more strategic and much wider perspective. Okay? And I used to say that real world risk management, it's passing under the radar and in isolation. People are keeping risk management isolated. This happens even in more sophisticated risk management environments like banks and financial institutions, and where you see the disconnection between who is paid to watch for risk and those who really manage risk, but the real world risk man. Okay? These people are in the trenches, if they are operational, or they are there discussing the strategy of the company executive meetings without a systematic framework and even without the presence of the risk function, what we call the second line in risk management. Okay? Interesting point is it takes for me as a consultant working with a big company approximately 6 months to understand the company, interview everybody, pull up a full risk matrix. And by that time, data changed, conditions change, my work is outdated. So there's something missing here that I don't understand. Why do we keep buying into this and selling this? It's beyond my comprehension. Okay, so I'm trying to get out of that field and look from the distance, say how artificial intelligence changes that. Okay. Well, first thing we have to recognize is if you want to put something with artificial intelligence embedded, you need context. It's the first thing that you learn when you understand how a language model operates. It needs context. And you can give context in many ways. What OpenAI did, and then everybody were doing already, so they went along, is train a large language model in whatever was at the internet and open books, public books at the time. So that's why you got that famous answer. I was not born after 23. I don't know what happened, or 22. So, and now this is solved with the deep research agents that go scrape the internet. But that means the context was reserved, was 1 trillion petabytes of information from the internet at that time, and now it still scrapes the web. But if you're looking for a company's context, never a large language model will have that context. So you have to give the context to the model, okay? And context and semantics are pretty much the same thing when you talk about artificial intelligence. You give context through semantics, and they are critical. You just can't start this without talking semantics first, okay? LLMs, they predict, and that's very fast. You don't realize, and it's crazy for me. I'm an old man. I started having a computer when I was already an engineer. So it's incredible for me that software can talk to me like a person, just guessing the most probable next token. Okay, but that's what they do. So you cannot feed this spreadsheet to the large language model, and what he will understand is what's in the table. Okay, okay, he repeat like a parrot what is in the spreadsheet. You're not giving good context. You're just giving a spreadsheet. Okay, so basically, what a human large language model would say, how come you want me to understand the real context if you're not feeding me? Okay. Everything I have is what I was training in. You're training me in a row in a spreadsheet. You want me to understand product safety. I understand very little from that. Okay. And so we have to realize that if you want to go AI in risk management, we have to prepare the information in some kind of way. Of course, you have seen people feeding PDFs and Excel files and CSV files, of course, and doc files, feeding that like 1,000 documents to a large language model. Okay, what this software will do is gonna shred that into chunks, text chunks. And you may try even to generate a graph from that or a system from that. But it's not going to be right. It's going to be full of mistakes. And we're talking about context for a company is very tricky. And even when you design a simple diagram with a strategy or with a problem solution, people are going to disagree on the diagram, which means that the context is not a trivial thing. Okay? However, if you unleash the power of context with artificial intelligence, if you unleash this power, you're going to get the future of risk management. I'm pretty sure of that. And we're going to forget this spreadsheeting things, and we're going to have a system, a designed system where risk is there. It's part of an assumption testing decision-making process, which is what we want. Okay, of course, I'm not talking about operational applications that are simple. Okay, if you talk to a safety person and the safety person is assessing risk of a single activity, like climbing a stair, a ladder, climbing a ladder, of course, you don't need this. We're talking about strategic, financial, complex operations like supply chain management, like predictive maintenance, things that really need a good context definition. So if you use a naive ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini application, a large language model, which is, I mean, 99% of us already are using that. You get some hallucination and it doesn't understand your context, the specific context. So what you do in RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, you are going to feed shredded pieces of documents. It's like passing through the shredder and feeding to the digester. This is for vector. Okay, this is where you create the vector embedding and then the model understands a little better. And it has chunks of tests, and this gets a little crazy. I tried that, and it gets a little crazy because inverts cause and effect and doesn't give you a system comprehension. Now, when you apply that to a graph, which is something like this, and I'm using here a slide from Arango, which is one of the major competitors in this graph area. You have then a retrieval augmented generation with a graph diagramming. So now you know what's cause and what's effect. You have taxonomy, you have an organization, you structure information. So you have minimal hallucinations and a great gain for risk management. You have a verifiable behavior. You can look at the large language model, how effective it is in helping you with making decisions. Okay. So when you do this, you already have a colleague, an LLM that can help you with risk management tasks. It doesn't need to be automated. You can already ask what, please give me a report, please make a presentation of this for me. And it will use this connected data to improve the output. It's going to be much, much better. So basically what I did in Project Enchiridion was to create a graph for a fictitious company, okay, with the large language model helping me. So instead of only feeding a graph for a use case, for a specific problem like user safety problem, I gave the entire company graph to the model, and I start training it. So now I have a personal GPT, I mean Nutini, that helped me to generate what's in Project Enchiridion, and the model understands what's there. Okay, and if you keep expanding it keeps absorbing, it keeps learning, and you can reinforce the learning, of course, with strategies. Okay, so then you have an LLM that you can use in an orchestrator if you want to automate a task, and that's what we're going to talk about. Okay. Well, everything that I'm saying is not invented by me. I'm not so smart. So the concept of contextual knowledge graph, okay, is recent. The seminal paper is from June 2024, and what they said is if you only say like Barack Obama was president of the United States and was succeeded by Donald Trump, okay, of course you have already an orientation. It's better than chunks of text, of course. Okay, this is a chunk of text here from Wikipedia. Okay, so what I did, we're graphing this here. Okay, nice. The contextual thing comes when you associate more information to Barack Obama. Okay, so the model becomes more context aware. You understand better who is Barack Obama. So you start linking things underneath the main connection. So you get connections in many layers here that you don't really see. You realize that the model is doing the association because he's following a path. They call it looking for paths. That's what a model does all the time. So if you feed just a chunk of text, the model is going to get crazy trying to associate chunks of text that are similar. Here, you have an organization, have a structure. So this is called then structured training, where you say, model, I want you to keep this in your memory, okay? And when you recognize there is a node, they call this a node, and this is an edge. When you recognize the query, hey, like this query here, who was the Secretary of State when Barack Obama was president? Okay? You're going to recognize Barack Obama, then you follow a thread until you get to Hillary Clinton. Okay, that's what the context-aware model did here. So the context model had 3 loops in this test here. First, reasoning didn't find, then I follow the path. Gee, I find it. That's here. So you get through these connections here. Okay. You get to Hillary Clinton, then you have an assertive answer. Hillary Clinton and John Kerry were the 2 secretaries of state. This is what we call contextual knowledge graph. Well, basically what you do is you look at this first graph here, you say there is like a card or a file here. It's not only Barack Obama, it's Barack Obama and biography, associations, like Wikipedia. It's very similar to Wikipedia, but chunks of text organized in cause and effect. Okay? So you may be thinking probably this is not easy. It's easy to do an example, but how do you do in real life? Well, that's the deal. I believe that contextual graphs are much better than risk register. I mean, it's easy to see that you have uh, you can teach a large language model. You still can generate a risk register for the regulator. Okay, if you want, or you want a spreadsheet. Okay, if that's only you can look. Okay, no problem. Let's generate a table. Okay, it's a table view only. But for me, I have a big cane, which is you enable vertical agents. You can, for a specific case, you can go down to data and establish an automatic communication. And in the end, you have a good decision maker, a wiser decision maker. More than a wiser decision making, you can support decision making with early warning, monitoring, like in fraud detection, which is already happening. You can alarm management or even the board. I mean, if you are a board in the board of directors, you want to be alerted by something, you just ask now, okay? And the model, the model will give the information based specifically on the requirements and thresholds and limits and the assumptions that you gave to the model, okay? So that's our challenge. How do I create a risk-informed, assumption-based decision machine that helps me, supports my decision process with qualitative information? Well, that's the problem. It's very difficult, almost impossible. So we gotta go quantitative here, okay? And final, one good gain, I think, is the explainability that you get from decision making. You can even go to in a legal procedure, like before a judge, and say, we have this decision process. That's the steps that we followed, and this demonstrates that we had the best information possible for that decision. Okay, and as a counterpart of that, forget about I didn't know it. I think 10 years maybe from now, you just won't be able to say that because you have so much information at the tip of your fingers that you can do this. Well, I'm using for Project Inquiry, that's gonna become more and more obvious, what we call fixed layer architecture, where you are not helping the model with text chunks. Okay, you are indexing with an orientation. So when you do a structured context, you're using what we call fixed layer architecture, which is it's very structured, it's very tight. So you're going to work with a small model. Even though we call large language model, what you're doing is you're borrowing all the capability to talk to a human and understanding the world that ChatGPT has. And you're going to create an instance of ChatGPT, they call a project. That is a small model for this specific semantic layer. That's the deal here, okay? So let's see, there is something in the chat here that I need to be aware of. Where am I here? Yes, yes, Matthew. Explainability leads to explainability. I think this is going to be important for disclosures, no doubts. Okay. Let's continue sharing here. For the computer here. Okay. Well, what we're doing is called GraphRag. Microsoft introduced that concept and is being used and abused today. Traditional RAG is still working for small context, like threading the textbook into pages or paragraphs, but GraphRag for complex systems is all in the news. And if you look at the AI channels, everybody talks about GraphRag as the most adaptable to complex systems. Okay? To hire risk into complex systems is like filling a gap between what we call strategic or contextual management, where people in a higher level are discussing objectives, policies, and requirements, and how the company operates as a system, with what's coming out of processes and activities, mainly data and indicators. And the second line of risk management has a big problem doing that because teams are small, getting scarcer, and complexity is increasing. So this integration problem is bringing risk information to decisions at the right time with the right level of strategic comprehension is being very, very difficult for teams. So that's why the old, let's call old, if you will, enterprise risk management still rules because it's simpler and it gives you the illusion that you're managing something. Okay, but people are deciding trade-offs, which is the most important part of, in my opinion, of a strategic execution. Without your help, that's the problem. So we have to close the gap, and I think we have the opportunity doing a better contextual decision. So basically, what we're gonna be working in the project is building a semantic layer that helps the decision process, which is exactly what we're talking about, having knowledge graph of the company or the specific problem, okay? And having a data scheme layer, which is an organization of data according to the semantic layer, which is this arrow here represents it's compatible. So whatever the orchestrator here understands that's connected helps the orchestrator to give information to us when we want it. Okay? And we can do this on demand. I can do like in a chatbot. Please, can you tell me how many non-conformities we have in the inspection in the plant 3 reactor? Okay. Or you can do an event based, the event triggers the orchestrator and says, you got a problem here, buddy. You have something going strange here. You got like a type of an intrusion in the system that's typical of a hacker. Okay, so you don't need IT to tell you. The orchestrator will tell you. And you have planned decision make, which is when you have a periodic decision making forum. The orchestrator helps you to build the situation, the cockpit. Okay? It can do this, cannot do this if you don't have these two layers working together in congruence. And that's the hard part. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this for a specific use case, but I'm defining what's going to be the semantic layer for the whole company, for decision making, not only for risk management. That's why Project Kirina became kind of a giant. And I'm working in two specific use cases, which I'm going to explain now. Okay. One use case, you already saw it, probably must have seen it in LinkedIn. I'm using it as my benchmark. And I did this because of sustainability assignments that I have. Most of my agribusiness companies are studying how sustainability is going to affect their exports and their here in Brazil, okay, mainly because of the European regulations, okay. So we said, oh, fine, okay, you have a food company, of course you have you keep track of product contamination, but what about the product safety and how do you keep track of product changes, process changes, sanitary agency interventions? I mean, how do you keep track of those things? So obviously, in a typical Brazilian cooperative today, you would have this very, very unorganized. It happens, but it's not structured. So what I'm doing here is structuring the information in a way that you can really understand. Okay, this is what we call a knowledge graph. It's a semantic layer for a use case. So I use the term contextual graph or contextual knowledge graph for a specific use case. So what's the ontology? The ontology is the entity that you label before. So what I'm doing, I say, what it is the need for compliance to good manufacturing practices. That's a typical standard for food production. Okay. So what is this? Is this a risk? Is this a decision? No, this is an assumption. It's a performance assumption, a specific type of assumption. It's an assumption. We have to presume that if I'm selling cheese all over the world, okay, it's got to be compliant to good manufacturing practices. We have to presume that. That's not a difficult conclusion. So I have in Project Iridium, I have a card or a file that in my the software I use, Obsidian, you can go through that information that tells a lot about what it is compliance to current government good productions, etc., etc. For each of these cards, okay. So you can look even in the site. You don't need Obsidian. You can look at my site. You can take a look at what's inside one of these cards. I have like the data for product contamination already connected. So if there is an event in the future, the model, the orchestrator, we're going to tell what's going on, what's going out. So these are the labels or entities. That's the name, the formal name that the ontology has. So the ontology kind of keeps this thing structured. It says that risk must be convolved with assumption. Okay? So risk convolves with assumptions. Requirements relativize risk. So you assess risk based on a requirement. But also you have other things coming in here. Let's check. Oh, control attenuates risk. Of course, control attenuates risk. And you have two controls here, a checkpoint and a control. This is going to have data also. So you have the semantic layer here. You have data, you have process change validation, you have data from that. So this thing keeps talking to each other in an artificial intelligence environment that you don't even participate if you don't want. You have only to coordinate this as a human. So in the use case, you have the ontology saying you need production data from inspection. That's the ontology. That's worth for product safety, but it's going to be worth for many things in the company. Production data, taxonomy, inspection. You have production data from productivity. I have production data level, many types of production data. Production data is the entity. So the ontology governs that. Okay, you specify a semantic layer that's structured. You try not to go out of it, because every time you go out of the ontology, so if marketing people say, okay, I'm going to use another ontology, you got a problem in this situation. Of course they can. You can have specific ontologies in the level that you want, okay? But you're going to miss something doing this. So ideally, you would do like in the project. You would specify the semantic layer for the whole company. Then you would go and attach use cases. The contextual graph it's a use case now. It's specifically for product contamination. You have a bacteria inspection. So it tells you how much tests you run, periodicity of the test, and things like this. Okay, that's in the contextual graph. And then you have a database, which is also called data schema, which is the data itself. That's where you find, in an organized, structured way, the data. That in the test 376, and in February you had like you were not invaded the threshold. Okay? And this is organized. So you can go from the ontology to the data and vice versa. Very well. Let's look at the project. The project is documented in Obsidian, which is a software that's free. You can download it. And if you have access to the native file, like I'm doing here, you can generate an application for yourself. Okay. So what I did, I created a subscription service that you pay monthly or for lifetime, to have access to the updates and to be able to edit. So you can create an instance for you, in your Vault, your Obsidian Vault, and start using it. Okay, and then you create your own application, your own ontology. The advantage here, you have a start point. So you have an ontology here with entities and definitions, okay? And this is going to be editable. You can do it also in Word or anything that understands the markdown syntax from Obsidian, okay? What you see in the site is this, okay? Obsidian has a nice functionality that generates a publishable information. So you look at the files that I allow you to look, here, okay? And that's probably what some of you must have already looked at. So you have the same information here, okay? But some things are already outdated. I need to keep updating. You have all these concepts here, and I have the templates. This is the ontology for each entity, okay? I have the scope, the actions normally proposed, and gates, and if you want to fill here, you can fill here, stakeholders. And then you have the ontology graphed or structured in the triples. So every ontology and knowledge graph works around the triples. So actionables, feed, metrics. And I have a specific reason to believe that, but I'm pretty sure that if each one of us would buy or build an ontology, would change things. So that's what I would like people to do, to start generating their own ontologies, criticizing my ontology. It's my way of seeing the world. I think that a decision changes an action, not risk. So a decision changes a risk. If I go to decision, I'm going to find modifies objectives and implements an action. So the decision implements the action, not the risk. The risk informs the decision. Okay, that's the sequence that I gave. This is the graphing part. Okay, an actionable or an action plan, if you will, modifies risk because it changes controls, it changes the way you look at risk. Then you can apply taxonomy here. You can assign a score if you're doing this for a quick express prioritization. Then you're going to paste the data here. So Enchiridion is not a knowledge graph software. This is going to go into a knowledge graph software for the automation part, okay? Which I'm starting to build now. So what you have here in Enchiridion is the ontology and the applied ontology, which is the knowledge graph itself, that gives the user safety knowledge graph, the one you saw in PowerPoint. So, oh, you have contaminated batch. Oh, this is an instance. Okay, this is an event created here. Okay, where you had a loss of curd, which is the pre-cheese mass. Propose a line of action. So you start connecting things from the real world to incidents, to risk, to decision making. And a large language model, based on the requirements that you fed, can, of course, advise and inform, alert of the incident, or if there were many incidents that show a tendency to have contamination or things like this. Okay. So really, Enchiridion, if you take a look at the overall structure, what you have here is the definition of the ontology, the templates of the ontology for each entity, and the connections between them, the business model for you to understand, if you want to study this, the fictitious company, what's the size, what they do, and who are the suppliers, and etc. A knowledge graph built for a specific use case, user safety, and starting also now cyber security. And you're going to realize that in decision domains, I kind of gave a full picture of the company. So you have 23, 27 decision domains. For example, accounting and controlling, you have 5 decision hubs, cost management, integrated reporting. So user safety is one of those hubs, and I have like 100 hubs here. and you're going to find user safety and sustainability. There you are, user and society safety. Okay. This is explained here in Verdanost use cases. So you have a guide to the use case. And I have to recognize that it's not the most user-friendly site in the world, of course. And I'm really planning on making it more browsable, if you will. But you can, using the links, you can start seeing how these things fit together. Okay, so this is the graph that I was showing at PowerPoint. It's made using a tool called Canvas in Obsidian, which gives you all the links. The gray, what's different from a diagram, a conventional diagram? You have not only the labels in the cause and effect arrows, have the labels, which is very important, is what connects things, or edges, like people from knowledge graphing use. It's an edge. This is a node, this is a control node, but you have things inside here that are contextual. So instead of only having a diagram, a system diagram, you have also, and a large language model can keep that in the memory better than I can. I already tested it. So it keeps reminding me things. Well, you cannot forget that you have a regulation for that. Okay, here is the regulation. So it's amazing how much you can get insight and system view with the help of a large language model. I'm pretty amazed by that. I'm very enthusiastic about that. Okay, I'm also putting here my approach to uncertainty assessment, which I'm going to open a little more, and books. I have either remarks from books or some PDFs already available in the library in the RiskLeap site, if you want. Okay. So this is basically the overview of Project Iridium. Now let us go a little bit further ahead and see what I recommend that you do, which is I think is next step. Talking to many people, I realized that the problem of going out of the woods of ERM into the light brightness of this. Okay, I realized that. I think we have to do the same thing that I'm doing in the project. You're gonna do in real life, which is deciding where you're going to start, a hotspot, a decision hotspot. Okay, you're gonna need to wire a risk assessment. That's the difficult part. So I'm coming with training for that. The major part is the risk assessment because I think that's where most people have a difficulty. And also there is a complication pulling the data correctly and analyzing the data for the risk assessment. So you have a combination here of synthetic data generated by simulations or by assessments in many ways possible. And you have the real data coming from CSVs and other types of files where you have the inspection data, for example. Okay? And uniting those things, knitting those things, and informing decisions is not easy. I've been playing with this for quite some time now. It's not easy. Okay. And it passes through defining an assumption well, which is what's the tolerance or the threshold, what's the law, what's the internal policy for the decision. That's something that we are not very good about. I mean, we talk about risk appetite and all those abstractions without really paying attention to details. And God is in the details, of course. Okay? So I call this a T hotspot. We have to find a T hotspot for your clients or for your company, which would benefit from the application of a case, artificial intelligence case, and to help you. And of course, I need to monetize this thing, and I have to be honest. I'm putting out a training program that I'm calling AI Solutions Designer for Risk Management course. So for people who want to grab this as a pioneer, as somebody that's going ahead of everybody in the field and design AI solutions for risk management. And the main part here is the risk quantification loop, which is, if you go back to the T, is this part here. That's the tricky one that's different in our field than in any other field. Okay, even if you talk in pharma, for example, you're talking about a new product, a new medicine coming out from the R&D and going to production. You have to test that. You have to have control groups and all those things. Somewhere there's going to be a risk quantification loop. I don't have any doubt because FDA and other regulators won't let it pass. Okay, so we're going to be needed not only in our industrial or business field, but in other fields as well with the risk quantification. So most of the sessions are going to, the heaviest part is going to be in the section 2. So this is the overview of the training program. I hope that some of you adhere with me here. It's going to be paid, but there's going to be a lot of value, I think, and mainly I'm going to offer coaching or mentoring or conversation sessions because I'm also learning and developing. So you are like-minded people developing solutions, okay? There's going to be an overview, which is basically this webinar a little bit extended in depth. And we're going to talk about designing context. That's the ontology and the semantic layer. Then the risk quantification loop. That's a drill about quantitative methods. Some of you may probably want to skip. So what I'm going to do is sell sections separately. The first one is going to be 0 and 1 section here. Then we're going to come with the risk quantification. The sections 3, 4, and 5 are more AI oriented and more developer language, but for business persons. So I don't want anybody, I don't want to be a developer. I want to be able to talk to developers. That's the problem. And the best that you can convey what you need and how is a risk management application, the faster it's going to be, the best result you're going to get from the developers. Okay? So there's going to be a lot knowledge graph and contextual graphs design in a specific software. Agentic workflow, which is the fashion, the darling of the YouTube channels now. Agentic workflow to 2025 is the year of agent with function calls and how do you read data from different sources and how do you orchestrate that. And the product development, how you oversee the product development as a business person, participating on proof of concept and the things, and making sure that you get problems early enough. Okay, so this is it basically. Okay, I still have my time available when I am at my Zoom application here. So if you want to ask questions or drop in the chat, I'll be delighted to answer. Let me unshare you. Okay. So if you want to make any comment or have a specific questions, I'm all ears.
Yeah, no, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Marco. That was really a very interesting presentation, and I'm very excited about the work that you're doing, as I've shared on LinkedIn. I really feel like we're in the beginning phase of something extraordinary and exciting for both business and for risk management by extension. Just a quick question on the training. Do you plan to have some kind of formal, like this is ex from a market perspective, this is extremely valuable for us and who work in corporate risk management roles for us to put on our resume and put on our LinkedIn. Are you thinking about certifying your training or at least having like some kind of training badge that, hey, I've trained with Marco Nutini, who is a global expert in the use of AI and risk management?
Yes. I'm gonna come out. That's why I think a little bit because I'm thinking through all this structure. Yes, I do want to give a badge, okay, and I have to make sure that this is not criticized or challenged by any institute or maybe we can cooperate with some institution like you belong probably and do a partnership, for example, okay, with an institution, or I can provide the badge myself. The problem is, to be very honest, I have a problem of being a Brazilian. So I think most people think of Latin Americans as who is this guy to be self-called global expert, you know? I do that, but I have to do my market, of course. But it's always something that holds us. Us. Gee, who am I to call myself a global? I think I am on the edge of this field. I realize that, and I'm attracting people in the edge of the field. Okay, like you.
I've
So,
been I've been following, yeah, no, I've been following this subject for a good 2 years now. And I think
mhm,
what you're doing is really groundbreaking because it's putting together a structure for us to move forward in applying AI to risk management as opposed to just simplistic queries into ChatGPT or
yeah.
the corporate GPT environments. So um, and don't think that people from Latin America have anything less to say or can be groundbreaking uh, professionals. You can
Well,
probably tell from
people.
my accent I'm not American either, but yet I was chief risk
Mm.
officer for Blue Origin and as an aerospace company based here. So you know,
Well,
certainly,
people fly in Embraer jets, right?
yeah.
It's in my city. I was a director at Embraer, CRO from Embraer.
Oh,
So
really?
that's where I live. Yeah. So I always say that people fly on Embraer. Why would you trust in me? I
Yeah.
work
No,
there.
thank you once again. I think it was a great presentation. I
I
don't want to take up
appreciate
more time.
appreciate your encouragement and positive reinforcement, being a subscriber as well. Okay. And we'll keep on moving forward, no doubt. I'm very excited. So bye-bye, everybody. See you around.
Marco, I have a question
Oh,
before you
sure,
go.
sure.
Okay. My name is Gareth. I'm sorry I can't put my camera on. But before my question, I must say I'm calling from the UK. I think you are on the leading edge of this. I've been following your articles on LinkedIn, and I like your website on Risk Leap, and I'd like to have a follow-up conversation with you at some point. But I operate with a small consultancy in the UK, and we've been experimenting with graphs for risk management because we work in capital projects.
Mhm.
Not so much the enterprise risk management as you opened with, but capital projects. And yeah, we've been experimenting with graph databases, as I say, but I don't believe to the extent that you have. So I'm finding this really interesting.
Yeah.
And my question is simply, how have you engaged with your the companies that you work for, their not behaviors, perhaps behaviors a little bit, but the cultural barriers and the transformation, because it's quite the quantum leap to move away from the stale. I was trying to find the right word, but the old ways of doing risk management is something that's really
traditional,
quite different. And what the benefits of those are as well.
Well, I would say two different situations. There are many companies in Brazil that are based in Europe, United States, those and also banks, and they are very more advanced than agribusiness, for example. Okay, and they are trying already to escape from traditional risk management for a long time. So I've been using system thinking, system dynamics, and other tools for risk assessment for a long time. Okay, but it's all manual. So you have some software like Archer Insight and other software that generate bow ties, for example, automatically. Okay, but my experience is this still is risk-centric. So I started doing these overviews of decision making. This was quite appealing to executives, but it's all based on me. That's the problem. The consultant goes and offers a presentation with a decision frame. Everybody likes. But I have a problem. Most risk managers have a problem to follow doing it. So keep doing it. So they or either they rely on the consultant or they kind of forget it and keep doing the old stuff. Okay. So what I'm doing now, and I have three companies basically that are in this with me developing a solution using this frame, okay? Doing a knowledge graph and automating decisions and insights. Okay? So it's still something that in progress. So besides the project in Kirin, which is a fictitious use case, I'm doing it in the real life with 3 customers. And one of them already almost delivering a solution, okay? But it's kind of hard. Mainly the IT people, for example, I don't know where you guys are, but in Brazil, the IT people are very suspicious when you say, well, okay, I have this GPT here that does this and that. You have to train a GPT, or what are you using for corporate GPT? Everybody kind of stares at me and say, we're using it for chatbotting. Everybody has its own account, and that's what I'm not talking about chatbot. I'm talking about using artificial intelligence for decision making. So everybody keeps looking at me, oh, this guy, is he crazy or something like that? So there is a resistance, yes, but more from the technical side that says how business people can talk about this. Then from the customer says, okay, that's fine, let's have it. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I find some resistance with project owners sometimes when they don't like to see risk that is not subjectively scored, but objectively evidence-based. If say cost or duration or reduction in benefits come out from a model that's based on a graph. But yeah, I just wondered if you encountered that. But I do also see that similarity with the IT issues with the companies that I work with in the UK.
Yes, everybody's kind of looking at the agent AI thing and saying, okay, how we're gonna in a corporate policy, how we're gonna contemplate that, consider that. Okay, are we gonna have a corporate GPT or something like this, and who's gonna own that and who's gonna coordinate that? So that I think that's the big issue under the problem. Okay. And one of these companies is a project management company, okay, as a construction company. And we did predictive modeling and we're building a solution that can advise where the project is going, or the contract, depending on how you see it, how the contract is going in terms of cost scheduling and other issues. So I don't think it is a problem more of having the technology. It is already here, okay? Now is the acceptance will come from mainly from his examples from the world. I don't think people will listen to me when they see that the world is confirming what I'm saying. Okay. So it's kind of crazy. I think you've been there also, right? You say, gee, Jared, let's do this. I said, I told you 2 years ago we should do this, and now it's your idea. Yes. Now everybody's heated about this. Okay, let's do it. I think the main problem is how do we coordinate this from a corporate standpoint, and the risk guys don't go doing their own thing there. Well, and you're right. I think one of the barriers is quantitative risk, not only with or without artificial intelligence. I think that quantitative risk has opponents because people tend to believe that assumptions are not possible. They are dangerous. So when you put a threshold a quantitative threshold or a limit or something like that, my camera is kind of bouncing.
Thank you for that, Marco.
So I think that's the main problem. Okay, fellows, one more something more. We have Juliano, Darin, all set. Thank you very much. I'll send the link of the recording to everybody. Okay, and the PowerPoint for you guys that been with me today as a bonus. The PowerPoint, editable PowerPoint. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marco.
Bye bye.